and like how the kind of world or the kind of country that we're going to leave behind when our generation is over. So we want to build a generation that actually every generation will remember that at least we change something. And please, I want to urge you guys, wherever we're going out there tomorrow, don't always be alone. Like uh, Dr. Miguna said, don't be alone. Always walk in masses, walk in numbers. And when you walk in numbers, it is very difficult for even for those rogue policemen to come and just abduct you or maybe do whatever they want to you. But when you walk alone, and it's easy for them to do anything to you. And he's we should not actually engage much in pointing fingers amongst ourselves, because that's what these people want. That's what he wants. So that when we point fingers to each other, we will we will actually we won't be united. So probably when you're not united, it is easy for an enemy to defeat you. For now, the situation that we have at hand is we want to find our brothers who have been abducted by this government, and the only way we can find them or we can try to trace them is by being united and working together, so that at least we can make some progresses. But if we keep pointing fingers, yeah, I know we are in bitter. We've lost people through the riots that we've been having because people have been shot. Um, but we cannot just dwell there, because uh, freedom does not come easy. And for freedom to come, for something good to come, there must be struggles. And probably, even when our country was gaining independence, there was some bloodshed. I'm not saying that we are going for bloodshed, but I'm saying that if things happen like that, it's something that we can be prepared for. But always take care of yourself wherever you are, and always try to make sure that you are your brother is keeper, so that we will work together. We shall never ever walk alone. We shall never ever walk alone. That is the motto that you're supposed to have. We shall never walk alone. And tomorrow, as we go out in big numbers, I wish you all the best, and may we just be victorious and make this guy go home in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tamaro. Steve Juma, and focus on your submissions. I know something else has happened and people might want to address it, but kindly share what you had prepared. Modiora will address the Nothing K's remarks. Thank you, Steve Juma.
Thank you, Redemptor. I don't even want to go like May you thought. Mine is very direct, and mine is a question to Akili Ndegwa. Akili, we are going to the street, and I'm ready even as I speak now. Now, what do I do to if I find people who purport to be security officers, while the Inspector General of Police have denied that these are not abducted, as they have also explained how police officers should behave. The DCI have denounced the existence of abductors in the country. And then the former deputy president, who was second in command, has also given us a hint of a possible 21st floor by so-called Abel, who operates as a maybe shadowing inspector general. What do we do to unmarked vehicles? People come to arrest us. Do we still negotiate with them? What do we do? Does the law allow me to defend myself? That is one. That is a question to you. Two, then for those who will be going to the street, I insist, like my brother there has spoken out clearly that people need to work in a group. And now I want to tell people that if you have a phone, please take your pictures in a landscape format and ensure that you share the images or the pictures that you've taken there of any in excess or any form of brutality meted on the protesters with instantaneous immediacy, so that should your phone get cracked or lost, maybe it's been confiscated, we can be able to see what you've shared. Don't go there to TikTok or to do those great content. We are at war, in quotes. We are at war because negotiation has failed. Abduction is on and very rampant. We need now to speak and defend our country. Very, very good crossover. Ndegwa, I want to hear from you as Wakili perspective. Do I have a right to protect myself? Thank
Thank
you.
you, Steve Juma. I'll give the Wakili Ndego if he's still here to answer that question. Tom Boyer,
Y-
and then
y-
Brian Okech.
y- Yeah. Thank you very much for this debate. I must say that the law recognizes the right to self-defense. Number two, the National Police Service Act has given the orders within which, or the procedure within which, a police officer is to be identified. For example, you must have a uniform, you must have a label, you must have his police number, or you must have an identification. Any person who falls outside the scope or the ambits of the description of a police officer within the National Police Service Act is to my interpretation not a police officer. That is a person who needs to be dealt with as a criminal, the same way we will deal with a criminal. Arrest, you need reasonable force because we are dealing with a government that has been infiltrated by, or a government that is being operationalized like a criminal enterprise. So any person who does not come with identifiable insignias, we shall deal with that person like a criminal who is infiltrating our peaceful protest. Number two, they may not just come to the streets and infiltrate us, they may also come to our houses. And the question is, when they come to our houses, how do we deal with that person? And what does the law say? Permit me to invite you when we retire. You go and Google what Sir Edward Coke said about a house and a castle. That was in 1634. Justice Coke said that a man's house is his castle and the fortress. Therefore, you must defend it, and when you are there, you are allowed to defend yourself in whatsoever manner. That when a person pushes you too much to a corner up to your castle, what do? You defend yourself. So any person who comes to your house in this particular time without identification, without the proper procedure of search warrants or arrest warrants, that person is a goon, that person is a criminal. You are allowed by the law to defend yourself when you are in a castle. Justice Cox says a man's house is his castle. So do not just allow people to infiltrate and penetrate your castle. Defend your castle. It is in your castle that you can only find safety. When a person pursues you in the streets, pursues you on the roads, up to your castle, what are you to do? You have to retaliate by defending yourself. And they must understand that this time round, it is not going to be business as usual. Yesterday, what happened in Nyandarua, when that police officer threw the tear gas canister, people jumped on him. They clobbered him, and the police officers were repelled and repulsed from the field. In Nyeri, when the police officers came to tear gas us when we had the occasion to take Senator Karongo Wadhangwa before the regional DCI, police came to interrupt our peaceful rallies. Boys and men pursued them until they were taken back to the police stations. So any person who comes to infiltrate our peaceful protest, and remember the street has been constitutionally institutionalized, will be doing a constitutional process tomorrow. The Constitution recognizes the street as an alternative avenue where people can voice their voices. If the government is deaf, that person who comes to interrupt the constitutional process is a person who is violating the Constitution. So you must deal with that person in a manner in which you will deal with a person who is violating your rights. You cannot come and interrupt with our Article 1, our power belonging to the people. We shall not allow them to come and interrupt with Article 3, the responsibility to defend and uphold our Constitution. We shall not allow them to come and infiltrate and violate Article 10, the question of the rule of law, the participation of the people, the rights of the people. We shall not allow them to interfere with the provisions of Article 37, because tomorrow all those articles will be in play. So we shall be executing a constitutional process, and we do not expect any person who respects the Constitution to come and interfere with it. And should that arise, therefore, we are going to defend our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wakil.
I'm guided most obliged. Wakili.
Is there someone else?
I'm guided most obliged.
I am most obliged.
Okay, thank you, Wakil Ndegwa. Thank you for that explanation. Tom Boyer, you have 2 minutes. Tom Boyer, can you unmute and speak? Then we can have Brian Okech. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, so I'd given Tom and he's not here. Mudira, I would like you to just address a bit of what Nothing KE has spoken to, but I wouldn't want it to be a long presentation. Maybe it can be dealt with, but because it's been shared publicly, you can just plan on how to go on from here, because we can't prosecute the whole case on this space. Mudira.
Yeah, I just want to add
duly
a little.
noted. Yeah, okay.
I just
Carry
want
on.
to add a little, Madiora, before you go. I think I will really appreciate Nothing KE for sharing her perspective. And I understand the strong emotions surrounding these issues. I think disagreements like this, especially on sensitive matter, highlights the importance of clarity and transparency. I think it will be prudent to validate the concerns raised by seeking a detailed record of detailed records or a statement to set the record straight. I think this isn't about resolving a disagreement. It's about ensuring that the truth is brought to light in a manner that respects all parties involved. I think it should be a clear communication and factual accountability to help maintain trust and demonstrate commitment to justice and fairness. I think this is my view how we should proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll start by addressing something she said about lies, and I wish to say as follows. Senator Umtata handles his communications personally. That's a responsibility he has not.
Madera, wait a bit. Abdi, I think we're losing focus. Let us not talk about Okio Mtata. Let
Exactly,
us talk
exactly.
of our
That
comrades
was my
who
view.
have been abducted, and that's the way to go. I think this is the ND edition. We don't want to discuss Okia at all at any given point. Don't talk about Okia. It's not only Kibet who is abducted, but other people abducted. Those people are saying Okia's issues. We are not here to solve Okia's case. We are here to talk the issues and what is happening tomorrow. Madiora, forgive me about that, but that's the way to go. Go ahead.
Okay.
Don't talk about Okia anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to remind us about the events that led to the release of the Kitengela 3. There was concerted efforts and pressure from all quarters. We went to court. We did all we could. And eventually, after 32 days, at the height of the Inspector General of Police, who was then in acting capacity, having been found culpable and even charged, they got released. It's the pressure that we applied that got the Kitengela 3, even after 32 days being released. So this is the only language that this government understands. And if we understand that, then we know we must come out tomorrow forcefully and know that we are doing our patriotic duty. Now, Embu has done it so far. So we are not doing it for the first time tomorrow. Embu has called out the government and have demanded for an end to abductions in Kenya. We did see citizen engagement in Bomet today. We saw it in Nyandarua. Kenyans have been active. It's only in Homa Bay where citizens did not take appropriate actions, even though they had an opportunity. Now, you listening to us tonight have an opportunity to come out tomorrow in whatever way or form. Do not let this opportunity pass. Our brothers need us. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot act. We can. Let's seize this opportunity, because if we don't, there'll be more tomorrow and the day after. And Kenya will no longer be the republic that we gave unto ourselves when we fought the colonialists and eventually fought for the new constitution that governs us. Let us get it done. Inawezekana tukasukuma hii serikali na tukatekeleza jukumu letu kama wananchi la kulinda katiba na kuhakikisha kwamba the rule of law is all that matters in Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Muthiora. I think Brian Okech is the one who has not spoken. Brian.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. So my issue, there's someone who said something about matatus not being allowed in town. And I wanted to address the issue and suggest maybe we can work with the riders, because most of them won't be working. Kesho, everything will be at standstill. So we can use the riders, they know the panya routes, to arrest them is not so easy. And pia there's an issue of the ghetto people, wenye only the ghettos around the town ndio watu walifika town. Hao wengine wote wenye wako karibu na town, they never came to town because hawana fare, wako na njaa. You know, there's a bit of confidence mtu akiwa na some fare kwa pocket, even if it's 200 shillings. So there are people who are willing to give, and there are others who are willing, who are waiting to receive something. Sai inbox yangu imejaa. There's some people asking for something for fare. Maybe we can engage after this on my pinned post, tuone kama tunaweza saidiana, for those who are willing to give something. And those who cannot give something directly, maybe unapatana na your nduthi guy, unampatia fare ama for fuel, he carries 2 people wanafika town. Yeah, that was my only thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brian. Yes, there are people who are willing to support. You can reach out to him in his inbox if your inbox is open. We have a new speaker, Jonathan. Jonathan, can you unmute your mic and talk to us before we make our final submissions? Okay, Dr. Milton, although you had said you might have made your final submission, are you available to talk to us?
Yes, I am here, and I
Yes,
just
go
want
ahead.
to say something very quickly, and this is something I've shared this on the comment section. Now, there's something that is going on, and I want our people to be very aware of it. Please, if you can go to Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi's handle, you'll see what he has tweeted. I have put that on the comment section, and this is what he said. So I'm allow me to read it because I don't want to paraphrase. It says, "I just want to see how tomorrow's demonstration will turn out. First, if our brothers from Luo Nyanza sit out, and they probably will sit out, it will then be a sporadic, a tribal demonstration, and not national. Historically, Luos is the only community that demonstrates and dies for national causes. Secondly, whereas I strongly support the effort to hold President William Ruto accountable and force him to stop abductions and enforce the rule of law, in brackets, and I have personally told him so, this refrain of Ruto must go is tribal nonsense that must be strongly opposed. I just don't subscribe to the fascist ethnocentric that Calais presidents must be hurried out of office. Uhuru Kenyatta's regime killed over 1,000 people and threw them to the crocodiles in Tana and Yala rivers, and not a single soul demonstrated. Go ask Dr. Fred Matiani if you doubt me. Ruto should be held to account, but not because he is Calais. If those saying Ruto must go are genuine advocates for reforms, Why have they not joined me and Nelson Harvey in the war against Juris Pesa? Third, those pushing tribal agenda of Ruto must go must know a dialectically opposed tribal force can always meet them. And considering how fragile the state in Africa is, it isn't in the interest of anyone to see Kenya go that route. Now, good people, hii kitu imenikasirisha sana, and I would want us to address senior counsel Ahmed Nasir. He ni blackmail. This is very ethnic, and he wants to brand those of us who are against his friend William Ruto, who is unleashing terror on Kenyans. Ati now, calling for Ruto must go is tribal, and we are simply calling Ruto out because he's Kalenjin. This is nonsense that we must not entertain. And I'm encouraging all of us, ndugu zetu from Luo Nyanza, ndugu zetu from other parts of the country. This is the kind of arrogance that we must stand against. And I'm encouraging you, tafadhali, Ahmed Nasir has got away with so much in this country over the last few years. And I think it is time for people to put him where he belongs by speaking boldly against him. And I don't fear him. I honestly don't fear him. And I want to ask all of us, this is a time to show him that whatever nonsense he's spewing and speaking is unacceptable and it has no place in this country. Prejudices and innuendos like the one he's trying to propagate is unacceptable and they have no place in modern day Kenya. Kenyans come out in large numbers tomorrow. There is no tribalism, there is no tribal tag that is going to stop the Ruto must go chorus. And it is not just a chorus, it is the right thing for the Kenyan people to demand. And therefore, please go to that tweet, deal with Ahmed Nasir only the best way we can as patriots, because Ahmed Nasir is a beneficiary of rogue regimes and systems, and I dare say, including the jurispresa that he's talking about. They have been sent, like I said in my opening remarks, by William Ruto to discredit Martha Koome and the judiciary because it has become impossible for them to continue selling justice and intimidating judges and intimidating the judiciary. This one, fellow Kenyans, I have never asked for anybody to be bullied on X, but on this one, I am asking that we make sure that Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi and Nelson Harvey, who are holding brief to do hatchet dirty work for William Ruto in intimidating Martha Koome out of office, let us not fear him. I don't fear them. I know they will come for me, but I don't fear them. Let them come. I know they are going to tweet, they are going to ask who I am. Let them come. But on this one, this tribal tag, this branding, this tagging of Kenyans who are calling for better governance from somebody in the name of William Ruto is unacceptable. We must deal with it. We must run them out of town. Sorry, I've come back and I'm ranting. Ni ile hasira niko nayo because of this tweet. This is simply not right. And if we had nothing else motivating us to come out tomorrow, then this tweet by Ahmed Nasir should inspire us in our millions to come out and force these idiots out of office and out of power. And I'm done. I drop mic. I'm shaking with rage right now. It is unacceptable. It is simply unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I cannot believe someone is telling us that other people murdered Kenyans and got away with it. I cannot believe that. So you're saying because it happened before, now we let it keep happening? And now speaking of addressing that, I was not going to, before I allow Ndegwa, Professor Kibuda Kibwana is here, karibu sana. I would want you to address that tweet, kindly read it. But there's something I want to highlight today. I'm going to be very bold and say, I advocate for brutalized Kenyans. That has been my area of activism. And I can tell you for free, the body count on this regime has never happened before, because we are counting everything, including the massacre in Kilifi, including the bodies in the quarry, including the young people of the Gen Z. So you cannot come and tell us because the others were not called to account and prosecuted, now this is tribal. This is about a generation that defends the truth and values human life. And the time to play politics with people's lives has come to an end. And so I would also, like Milton, get out of hand, because I'm also equally not upset about those remarks. You cannot politicize everything, including human life. Ndegwa, are we being tribal when we demand for good justice, good governance and justice?
Think that we are being tribal when we hold the government to account. It's your solemn duty and the highest calling of any citizen to hold his government to account. In any case, transparency.
I've lost you a bit. Continue.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Continue.
Well, I was saying that it is unfortunate that when people comes out to call or to hold the government to account, they're being labeled as tribal. It is not our liking. It's the constitution that dictates that the government must be held to account. It's the constitution that dictates that a government must be transparent. It is the constitution that dictates that a government must be guided by the rule of law. And when a government fails to meet those tenets, it is the responsibility of every citizen to uphold and to remind that government that it must be called to order and must be reminded that it must act within the four corners of the Constitution. Therefore, it is not tribalism for us when we come out to hold Mr. William Ruto and his rogue regime to account. It is what is expected of us. It is the legitimate expectation that the Constitution has bestowed and dictated us to do. Therefore, I would also wish to distance myself from the sentiments being aired by senior counsel. It is an attempt to profile this struggle. That's a struggle that is only coming from one side of the community. That is not true. It is not true that Zakali Jinu is being hoarded out of office. It is a rogue regime that is being hoarded out of office. Unfortunately, the person who is at the helm is Zakali. We never made it that way. He's the one who sought for the votes. And when we voted for him, we never considered him to be a Kalenjin. We voted for Mr. William Samoei Ruto, 7.2 million votes. Those were not Kalenjin votes. Those were Kenyan votes. And therefore, any person to attempt to hide behind the mantra of tribalism is a person who has lost the script. We cannot then be told that a particular government was not held to account because it was a government that was constituted of Kikuyus. They were lucky that we had not tasted the waters of freedom. We have now tasted and drunk from the well of freedom. And the well of freedom is quenching our thirst. And we cannot quench our thirst and hide behind the veil of tribalism. If Mr. Kenyatta was lucky that this was not there by then, let him come back and attempt to do what Mr. William Ruto is doing. We'll still rise up against him. I was critical of Mr. Kenyatta when he was the president. I was still speaking that the constitution must reign supreme. I was still saying that the people are sovereign. So nobody should label us tribalists when we call Mr. William Ruto to order. We don't care whether it's a Kikuyu, whether it's a Kalenjin, a Luo, or whoever script and creed he comes from. Our constitution is the guiding cardinal north. It is the one that has given us the responsibility to hold governments to account. If you feel that you do not need to be called to order, shape out. We'll not be here tonight. most of us would be asleep, waiting to face tomorrow. But we cannot sleep when Kibet is not easy. We cannot sleep when Muteti is not easy. We cannot sleep when Billy is whereabout is not known. So when they attack one of us, they attack all of us. Kibet is not a Kikuyu. Kibet is not a Luo. Kibet is not a Kamba. Is not a Mijikenda. Is not a Makonde. Is not an Indian. Is a Kalenjin. So this rogue regime is a regime that does not choose which tribe or creed you come from, which ethnic extraction you come from. A rogue regime is a rogue regime for all of us. And therefore, we must face it and call it out that this is not a Kalenjin regime. It's a regime that is rogue being led by a Kalenjin. If he was keen enough, he would have held his dogs and called his people to order. He would have reminded them there is a constitution. If Kibet committed any crime, there is a court of law. If Billy committed any crime, the court of law is there. If Muteti committed any crime, there is the rule of law, and there are courts and procedures. But he decided to abduct them. You cannot abduct them and expect us to remain silent. We must express our rage, our anger, and our hatred for this regime in the highest voice that we can manage to attain. Therefore, I distance myself and call people out to demonstrate to any person who does not believe that this is a call for freedom to come tomorrow and witness people marching to freedom, people fighting for freedom, and a generation that is fighting to liberate itself. I pen off.
Thank you very much, Wakili. We have Professor Kibwana, who has come in a bit late. I don't know if you are listening incognito and if you've had the conversation, but we actually end on a bad note because abductions are already a difficult subject, a reality. Families do not have their young ones. And then someone goes and says, if tomorrow the demonstrations go this way, then he's actually playing political analysis with people's lives. So you found people's temperatures have gone up again. So Professor Kibwana, kindly join the conversation and make your submission.
Thank you very much, Hilary, Redemptor, Abdi, and all the general and all colleagues who are in this space. Actually, I was listening because I was traveling. I have been listening for a long time, but just more recently listened. I came on board to listen, and I wanted to listen, but actually it was what Dr. Milton said, which made me ask for an opportunity to pitch in. But let me say, before even commenting on that, let me say, as Dego and Dr. Milton very ably explained, Article 3 of the Constitution says every person has an obligation to respect, to uphold, and to defend the Constitution. So, apart from the Constitution elsewhere giving us, the right to demonstrate, to picket, to express ourselves, and all those political and civil rights, this Article 3 is very explicit that when you, demonstrate in defense of the Constitution, that is what a citizen is asked to do. And because of what happened, the bloodshed, the freedom lost, the lives lost, for us to get the 2010 Constitution, which is said to be one of the most progressive constitutions in the world, one of the cardinal duties of a citizen in Kenya is to defend it. And if anybody wants to trash it, then our 3 says they are actually attempting to establish a government otherwise than in compliance with the Constitution, and that is unlawful. And it means that actually where this government is going, it is trying to establish a government otherwise than in compliance with this Constitution. and that is unlawful. I think that's something that needs to be emphasized, that a government can reach a point where it contradicts the constitution, and according to this constitution, therefore, even if the government was elected lawfully in a lawful way, then it transits into establishing some other form of government which is unlawful because it does not comply with the constitution. And I think that's something that needs to be repeated. And for those who are in office to be told that when you abrogate, most of the constitution, then it means that you are not carrying on a government as anticipated by this constitution, and therefore what you are doing is unlawful. I think, and that Dego and Milton and also Miguna, the general, this is something that they and others emphasized. You see, one thing that is very troubling is, by and large, those of us who grew during Moi actually was targeting mostly the senior people. And those days, the Railas, the Mutungas, he was targeting Matiba. He was targeting those senior people, and of course, those who are assassinated. In terms of their autocracy, his dictatorship. But now what is happening is the current government and its leader is targeting young people, and more or less some of them like children. So this is really extremely worrying if the people that you target, not that you should target anybody, but if now you are transiting in targeting the very young and almost children, then it means, as was indicated, that there's an astounding level of desperation, and you're targeting them for simply expressing themselves in the way they know how. And in countries which are said to be democratic, presidents are told many things. They're even told, we will impeach you, and there are even processes to impeach them and processes to, do all sorts of things. For example, in America, in wherever. And, matters go to court. Even people who take matters to court, and they do all those things that democracies permit. And that doesn't mean, therefore, you abduct kids, you kill them, you do all sorts of things, you arrest them, you do all sorts of things. So even this is elementary, to know that there are boundaries, and you simply you have to swallow this. You have to know that this is the price you pay for being in leadership. You're in leadership to deliver. When you're not delivering, people will tell you that. It should make you improve. But you don't now declare war against them. And this, these are very, very, very ordinary things that anybody who has been in office, and especially in the Africa of, the 2020s, and in the world of the 2020s. So after getting the Constitution in 2010, this 14 years later, and after, the struggle for the Constitution from 90s, 34 years later, you can't reverse it. It's the train has left station. You can't reverse. The people, I think it was Ndegwa, who said, the tree of freedom, and, people, this generation of young people who have grown into freedom, you can't unfree them. And I think when this dawns on the leadership, and then, if possible, I don't know, they commit to other ways of dealing with the citizenry, then maybe there could be, a better situation, but I doubt. Now, these abductions are the new form of detention without trial, because previously, of course, under the other party, under the other constitution, the 1963 constitution is amended, you could detain people without trial. But because that facility is not available now, so now the abductions and those forced arrests and stuff are the new detention without trial. And this can't sit well in our current situation. And this must be resisted. It must be resisted. Now, when you tell parents that I will stop abducting your children, when you tell them to behave, that is like using abductions to mobilize parents to support the president. And of course, we know that those of, people who are parents and of, kids who are 20, 30s and so on, they have their own mind. And we could be different from them in how they think, baby boomers, X, and so on. So one has to respect that. One has to see that as a way of growing. One has to say that these are the new ideas that are going to take the country, further ahead, and not for us to go back. Actually, the fundamental problem in our country is, like President Moy said, that Kanu will rule for 100 years. Meaning even when he was not around, people were in Kanu and who go into other parties and, it looks like it's not Kanu and it's still Kanu. So it means that we have to say whoever was in Kanu, we cannot trust them. And so we need, for leadership in this country, for people who are not in Kanu, because we have learned that all those, even when they go into different political parties, when they are challenged, they come together, they regroup. And just to make two other points, one about Raila and another one about the judiciary, the thing that made me actually ask for the mic. Because Raila said that it is primitive to abduct young people. Since it is continuing, since it has not ceased, he should withdraw his ministers from the government. Because if he was to do that, we would say, yes, he meant what he said. That is what he should do. That is the honorable thing to do. And still, we continue to tell the president, and I was told by Miguna said, Ruto, that please leave these kids alone. And even the youth bill that is being brought is not a youth bill which is going to help young people at all. Let there be proper thinking about what is it that is bringing the young people to this level. Their, their disempowerment, their unemployment, their loss of hope, and all that. That's the issue. You don't, treat them as if you are the one who has a problem, when it is them who have, all these problems. So what we must tell Raila is, you said it is primitive to abduct kids. Therefore, since it's continuing, and as it continues, then the honorable thing for you to do is to withdraw the Johos, the Oparanyas, all those fellows from government, so that we can believe in what you said. Now, for the judiciary, I must confess that I taught with Hamed Nasir at the University of Nairobi. Even in his 20s, he became an acting dean. He was elected an acting dean of the Faculty of Law when he had just started, teaching. And I want to say here that professionally, I have professionally, as we taught and so on, this is somebody that I, was, and I can say is somebody who has been a friend, I taught him. I taught Harvey, as well. And he was president. He was my president of Law Society of Kenya. But, and this is a big but, underlined in red, if this judiciary has been, it helped to get the BBI case when these political people wanted to change the constitution without, to change it just to suit them. The judiciary stopped that, the BBI thing. The judiciary, stopped these finance things, the housing thing, but of course, the 2023 came back. The judiciary recently has said that the university funding model is not the correct thing, and has said that should not proceed because it is getting many students out of education. Now, if you compare the judiciary, which is doing these things, and of course, one is not saying that there aren't corrupt people in the judiciary, and there are ways in the judiciary. If you believe that there is anybody who is corrupt, then you just proceed against them. You name them. You name them, and therefore, they can be, whether it's the Judicial Service Commission, whether it is in the courts of law, you do that. All those ways, and even their own internal systems, whatever it is, you do it so that then we can discuss, individual people. So I think that is really, what it is to be done. Now, if Martha Koome gets out, others get out, and we know that already the executive is held hostage. We know that the legislature is held hostage. Therefore, now what guarantee is there when a new judiciary is being, those at the top are being appointed? What guarantee is there that there will be people who are anti-juris pesa? Obviously not. And the idea is to hand out whoever is in the judiciary at the higher echelons, and then replace them with pliant people, and so it means that there is now all the arms of government will no longer be available to help the citizens. It will be the citizens squarely against the government. So I think I really wish that, particularly through the Law Society, I think that there can be more sobriety, and this matter is discussed, candidly. And even I think one of the big spaces should now be just on the judiciary. One of these spaces where, some of this, like today, Hillary, should be on the judiciary, because we can be led the garden path, and we abort what is residual in terms of, once in a while protecting our citizenry. So this is really, with a lot of respect to Ahmed Nasir, because this is somebody, we taught together for a long time, and, somebody who, you respect people, but then friendship also means that you tell somebody this is a slippery, very, very slippery path. Very slippery path. And therefore, we hope that somehow, I don't know how, but particularly Raila, who said that these abductions are primitive, since they are still continuing, for him to say, I will not participate in a government where primitive things are getting done. And I yield. And I thank you very much. And I say Happy New Year. Well, it can't be happy. Let's get into next year. And really let us say that it is not negotiable for our constitution to be trashed. And whatever must happen so that we ensure that our constitution is respected. That, you know, because if you can't respect the constitution, then you can't rule. And I yield.
Thank you very much, Professor. Before you leave, I have a small question for you. And also interestingly, this this is the same this is the same institution that got this regime in power. I don't want to dwell on that. My question is this: in other countries, because of racism and everything that goes on, we've heard of hate crime. It is becoming apparent that this regime really hates the Gen Zs. They don't seem to target the millennials, because in these abductions, there was no millennial. And if you go to X, the timelines, everybody posted that image, but yet everybody who was abducted as a result of this image is a Gen Z. Does this regime hate the Gen Zs? And is there a law against hate crime here?
You see, when the judiciary, redemptor, when the judiciary in the court, in the case that affirmed that the current president Ruto had won the elections, when they did that, according to them, that according to them was the law, and they saw that that was the law, and so on. Now, this government, therefore, would say I should not fight against those people, because those people, when my win was being contested, they said according to the law, I have won. So under normal circumstances, one would expect, therefore, that there would be respect for this particular judiciary. But this is the opposite that is happening, and it's because when the government wants decisions that are pro-government, they are not getting them. And therefore, they want to replace the leadership with people who are going to hand them over decisions that they want, so that the judiciary is captured. You see? So even if you try to make friends with the current government, unless you exactly what they want all the time, then you can't be their friend. Now, these young people, the Gen Zs, you know, who they're exposed to, you know, they go into the social media and they Google and they do all those things. They are very tech savvy, and therefore, and very talented. Like, under normal circumstances, if there was work for them, then this IT and tech talent they have, they would use it to do the jobs. Now that there are no jobs, they are doing it to, if they can get the government out, so that there can be another government which can make provision for them. So the system realizes that these people, even in their youth, whatever it is that they're doing is discomforting them a lot. And these are things that go to the international community, to everywhere. You can't hide them. You know, and indeed, the younger people in many countries, when countries are crying for change, you know, sometimes these guys don't sense danger easily, and therefore they volunteer. They volunteer to do what is necessary to see that the change comes. And you see, if you traumatize a generation, if you instill fear, if you try to negate them, then you are attacking your future. Because these people will grow up saying, okay, you guys, you can put us down now, but our time will come. And so it is not something that you do, because it's just like in the family situation. You know, you may be a parent who is abusive and all that, and then later, when the kids grow, then when you want them to help you, they don't. So I think that's bad strategy. The strategy is really to ask what's the problem, and the problem is youth and disempowerment, youth unemployment, youth, all those issues. So you address that if you can. So it's unfortunate that these young people are being targeted because they can come to town, they can do, whatever. And just to say that, tomorrow, as Miguna said, people have to be very, very, very careful, very protective of each other, because there is the constitutional right to demonstrate, to picket, to do all those things. So it's not something illegal, and it's in defense of the constitution. But good strategy, good organization, so that something is properly mobilized. Because even the levels of the Gen Zs are not the levels that were there in the 90s. The NCC, where I was, part of. This is higher stuff. So it's important to always organize properly so that, you have people, and it's not easy to kind of, make those funny arrests and do stuff like that. So that, for me, that is what I would say one has to prepare, so that really when you have your show, then it is a real show, so that it's not quickly dispersed, and then when that happens, then they say, you see, it's just a few people, And the point which was made about Kibet, if first of all there is no government which is a government of one tribe, because if there's like 3,000 people who are top in this government, all those can't be Kalenjins, and to say that it's a government of Kalenjins really misses the point, because they're all, manner. Some groups might be more or whatever, but it's, from all this, that ruling class from all over the place. And if it was a Kalenjin government, I would imagine Kibet would have been called and told, we can give you a scholarship to somewhere. Please don't stop doing this. But it is that those Kanu guys and guys who want change. I have taken quite a bit of time, but I felt because of really what my friend Ahmed Nasir, and I'm saying that because we really come a long ways in terms of University of Nairobi was it in the 80s or 90s? With most of the, most of Smoking, Gito Mugai, all those people that one taught. And once a teacher, you really, you get unhappy when certain things come from people that you have really, you taught, and so on and so forth. I yield. And sorry, just finally, Redemptor. Yes, finally, very finally. I think we need to be careful about like that conversation about I feel nothing. The nothing are comments. I feel them. And also what Hillary, said, that let's not extend this conversation, but just to be careful that we don't start fighting each other and fighting each other and making it harder to do common work. And common work is necessary, because if there isn't common work going forward, then that will be the best for the current government, because they will have us for dinner or for breakfast or for lunch. I yield.
Thank you, Professor. I really agree with you on your remarks on the very deep-seated grievances with our youth in Kenya. I think this structural injustice, where they are rooted in economic inequalities, ethnic marginalization, or weak institutions, have persisted for too long, I think. As you have pointed out, while the energy and passion of this young generation is commendable, we must acknowledge a lasting change demands more than just street action, I think. It requires structured leadership, strategic alliance, willingness to engage in a dialogue even with those who may disagree, I think. I think our shared history reminds us that progress has always come through a combination of pressure from below and from up, and this is the ideal of finding a pathway to address these grievances. Thank you, and I yield the mic to Redemptor again.
Professor, what you needed to share with people is there was a group of abductors or harassers who were called Kanu Youth Wingers. Only they didn't have Subarus and pro boxes and guns. But honestly, I still need to know if there's a hate crime in this country. Just yes and no. It's a very brief answer for that one. Then maybe it can put my conversations in context. Professor?
Hate crime. You mean the government hating young people?
Yeah, or even if a group of people, even the tribal thing is being escalated in another level.
You know, I think Redemptor and colleagues, comrades, when Ruto goes to Raila and goes to UK, etc., there is no tribalism there. They, you know, when it's time to work together to secure interests, there is no tribe, there is no Kalenjin, there is no Luo, there is no Kikuyu. But this leadership will go and tell the people that when we are voting, you are Luo, you are Kikuyu, you are Kalenjin, you are whatever. Let's try to get into coalitions on basis of tribes. They'll say that this is the party of our tribe. You know, stuff like that. So they manufacture negative ethnicity as far as their followers are concerned, but they themselves, you know, are that kind I was talking about, that ruling class, you know, which is very knowledgeable about their interests. So that is, you know, one of the things that we must overcome is that question of this manufactured negative ethnicity. Because if this is not, this is not dealt with, whether it is 2027, before 2032, whatever, the people, particularly in the rural areas, will continue to be told that it's our time, it's the turn of our tribe, and all that. And yet, even after that, there is nothing coming to them. Even these handouts, people are given, you know, 200 shillings, 100 shillings, sometimes 50. You know, if you are more influential, 500, 1,000. And after that, for 5 years, there is nothing coming to you. There is very little coming to you. So those handouts, that negative ethnicity, because these guys, they know that among themselves, they are one group. There is no difference in terms of, you know, ethnicities, but they can percolate, you know, ethnic stuff. And the people buy it, and the people suffer. So I think there is a lot of work there. And again, in another space, we'll probably talk about these issues of negative ethnicity and these handouts things, the things that make, and the political parties, you know, these political parties, like, they are political parties which are dominant in a particular region because they have created that narrative, and yet they are not held accountable when there's corruption by the governors in their parties or whoever in their parties. There is no accountability. They are not, you know, it is like the political parties have no role after elections, and they can't also be held accountable. So those are issues that we will discuss. I don't know whether I have answered, tried to answer what Redemptor asked me, and I yield.
You have promised to come to the next show, so I will ask those questions then. Right now, our concern is that we are not crossing the year without our young people. The protests then must continue up to the New Year's. That's my opinion. Fear not.
We are at the top of the hour, Redemptor, so I think we have to get going. For the last speaker, and then we can do closing remark. Thank you.
Yeah, so KD, kindly. KD, unmute your mic.
Maybe after KD, Redemptor, if you give me a minute to say something to what you were asking, Prof, just to share my thoughts in a minute.
Okay. Katie and we are closing the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Hillary, for this. This has been a very good space for just like sharing and talking to everyone, um, and the enlightenment as well. Dr. Kivuda has quite painted some of the whatever's in the questions I had, especially like when you talk about handouts and stuff. We have to get to a point and be honest with ourselves, because most of the things we do are what bring us to where we are. You know, for instance, when you say handouts, there was a whatever yesterday on how much the government has spent in the last 3 months, and this guy spent 11 billion, 11 billion, something like that, 11 million. They spent 3 billion in 3 months, and him by himself spent 11 million. So we'll go about and start saying this government is extravagant, yet we are the same people who receive the handouts. And I believe it just starts with the small disciplines we have to give ourselves of learning how to deny ourselves and having that discipline of saying we are not falling for this, because that is a good example. Being bought lightly. When we talk about getting out there on the streets, some think it's more or less of a, it's for some people and not everyone. This thing 3-4 months ago, we said Safaricom is the one that is abducting our children. How many of us actually took up the initiative of saying, I think I have to let go of this line? But we are so much accustomed to this system that we have been, we are fishing in an aquarium. So you really think you're comfortable because you don't, it doesn't hit you until that day when that aquarium breaks and the water spills off. That's when you realize, wow, this could also be my own child, to be my own kid who's, and what hurts me most is we will still end up now being the victims, because right now we say let's go out there and we don't. You want to go ahead and do your own activities every day, when the kazini, open your shop, or whatever you do. I want you to sit down and ask yourself this question: what is the situation with the parents of these children? Can they sleep? Can they eat? Can they wake up? And even if maybe you have your own business or you're employed, are you in a position to actually go and open that shop and say, I'm going to bring more whatever stock to replenish my shop and make sure I'm in business? So I think it's just upon us to have that number one discipline here. It's the small things we will do for us to get to say, no, enough is enough. When they come to church, they say something stupid, we clap at them. We are endorsing them. You have a right to get to a point and say, no, I've had enough of this and I just need to have change. Because from where I sit, what I tell myself is we should stamp our foot down and have this attitude of, this thing will never happen again. Whether it's Kivuda who's going to be president or Redemptor or whoever, no one should ever come and break the law in terms of the right of any citizen. No one should ever be abducted again. There has to be law, and law has to be followed, and law should be equal to everyone in the country, not some and others. So I just want to leave it at that, and I hope we all commence and try to replenish ourselves, even as we jump into the new year. Think of it as starting anew in the things that have been your weakness. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, KD. Thank you for those submissions. Dr. Milton? Dr. Milton, unmute. I know I can hear you on transit. Even as you're coming back on, I don't know if you can hear me. Bonnie.
Actually,
Bonnie?
I don't have anything else to say. Can you hear me? I don't have anything else to say. Let's go get it. Let's go do it.
Thank you. Milton?
Okay, yes, I wanted to say this. There is something, there is some truth in the fact that this regime has hatred for the young people. But it's not just for the young people. It is anybody that would remind them of their incompetence. That would definitely be an enemy of this regime. That is, I mean, it is as simple as that. And the reason why they are targeting the Gen Zs is because they know that this is the generation that is ambitious. This is the generation that even some of them, these are the youth who will go. They have all the time, they have tech, they are tech savvy, and they will dig back into where this regime, or especially Ruto, where he lied. These are the people who have been compiling together and reminding the country indeed that this is what this guy told you and this is what he is doing. So to that extent, they become easy target because they are jobless. Number one, I would want to say here without any fear of contradiction that William Ruto and his team, they believe that everybody has a price. And I say so because I have been approached myself. They believe that anybody, mtu yeyote anaweza nunuliwa. So they target these young people and they make their life impossible and then make them an offer. So when these young people are made an offer, it has become impossible to make offers to them in the numbers that are coming out. So they are getting frustrated and they are therefore now targeting them for intimidation, number one. And to make that clearer, they are now going to the parents and telling their parents, look, we are dealing with these young people if you don't talk to them. So they want to apply reverse psychology on these young people and their parents so that then it becomes easy for them to get away with what they are doing, and so that the parents like you redemptor utaambia mtoto wako wachana na kupigana na serikali, unajua serikali ina mkono mrefu. Because this generation, the Gen Z, doesn't have that fear that we, the millennials and those before us, grew up with. This is a generation that will tell you, hey, daddy, apana, this one you. And that makes William Ruto extremely uncomfortable because he is a control freak. So he can't take it. He has such a soft, a thin skin that, by the way, those who know him directly, they can tell you, he doesn't take no for an answer. He doesn't think no is a complete sentence. That is why he would respond with a to a mosquito bite with a hammer, because he is so weak, he is so intimidated, and he doesn't understand how money cannot buy loyalty, because the choir around him is about money. That is how he has got his loyalty. So anybody who stands against him, anybody that will remind William Ruto of his incompetence is an enemy. So it's not just Gen Z. It's just that Gen Zs are going all out and they are saying things that those of us who are older would probably not tell him on his face.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. Over to you, Redemptor.
Yeah, my final submission is that a few days ago, the president told us to talk to our young people. And when you go to the timeline, end abductions in KE is still trending on the 4th day. And the images that made them upset have multiplied. In fact, now there are worse images in bikinis and the rest. So that means what? We are not holding our children's phones. They are adults. And two, we were beaten by our parents and they told us not to cry. In fact, we were not supposed to make a heaving sound when they beat us. And we improved and we said we were not going to do that to our children. So when they cry, we listen. When we beat them, we explain to them why we beat them, and we beat them with love. We discipline them with love. We taught our children to speak the truth, and that's what they've been doing. So I can tell you on this one, we have no control. And if our children have broken the law, we will love them even in prison. So they cannot be children and be abducted. If they are children, they should be in juvenile by now. I have a lot I would want to say, but the same way you addressed our children, we would also want to address your mothers and your wives. The pain of childbirth is forgotten when we hold our children in our hands. And it is unnatural for mothers to bury their sons and their daughters. So we appeal to the women of the first 47 counties and the women in the highest office. We appeal to you. We would like to see statements coming from your offices in the next few days. And in as much as people are saying tomorrow is going to be successful or failure or roads will be closed, when COVID came to the world, it was a pandemic, and they said we cannot come to Nairobi. There is a pandemic right now. We are in a bad place, and maybe in the new year, people should not come to Nairobi because Nairobi is a very dangerous place for their young ones. I'm just giving a hint that it is doable because I think the people who are frustrating us, who are doing all those things, are less than 10,000 people. We want our country back. We want some sanity back. Those are my final submissions, and to thank everyone who stayed here for all those hours. And I thank Hillary for hosting the show, the co-host Abdi, Bonnie, Dr. Milton, Neto, I know you're somewhere listening. And for Professor Kibwana, thank you for listening in and coming to contribute when the topic demanded for your wisdom. And Wakili Ndegwa, thank you. And all the other comrades, sorry, we have to close the show. Asante.
Thank you, Redemptor. Before I give my closing remarks, I will give Advocate Ndegwa 2 minutes and Bonnie 2 minutes, and then we do the closing remarks. Thank you. Ndegwa, do you have?
Thank you very much. I've listened to Professor and his wisdom, and I cannot agree with him more. And thank you for finding it worth to come and share with us. We are in a struggle, and the struggle needs, at least we have to redeem this country and regain back our freedom. This is a fight against impunity. Is a government that are rogue. Is an individual who gives not in the rule of law. We must commit ourselves to restoring the rule of law in this country. If we restore the rule of law, these abductions will be a thing of the past. If others will be a thing of the past. If we restore the rule of law, one will understand that they are free, that there is something called freedom of expression. If we restore the rule of law and constitutionalism, somebody somewhere will understand that there is a freedom of consciousness. Someone will understand there is freedom of consciousness. Unless we restore the rule of law, this country will go to the dogs. It is the rule of law that is in this country. Is a breakdown of the rule of law that individuals can conduct themselves in such an impunious manner. They have shown contempt to us. They have shown contempt to our constitution. They have demonstrated contempt to our sovereignty. And we, the people being the sovereign, we must come and restore the rule of law. Article 3 must mean something in our lifetime. Article 1 must mean something in our lifetime. Article 10 of the Constitution about the values and the principles of governance, the rule of law, the people's participation, democracy, human rights, equity and equality, accountability and transparency must at least mean something. Unfortunately, those conditions mean something when Mr. William Ruto is at the helm. So we must first of all deal with the cancer that is ailing this country. Time and again I have said that we need a precise political surgeon who is going to steer this country back to the path of the rule of law, put the country back on rail, the doctrine. Comrades, we are in a struggle, and we must be committed to the struggle for ourselves and the future generation, so that the future generation may not blame us for having allowed our constitution to be mutilated. If we do not come out and defend the constitution will be too weak to defend us. May I wish you a happy new year and a year that will resolve to struggle towards getting a government for the people, by the people, and for the people. Good night.
Thank you, Akili. 2 minutes, Bonnie. Let's be quick. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you. So I just thought of a message that I wanted to pass to Kenyans, which is, and I've said this before, I really want to implore Kenyans to think that, to understand that this moment in this discourse they've engaged in is not a discussion around government. It's not a discussion around, which set of politicians are going to be ruling us over the next, 5-10 years, right? You're hearing from a lot of us. Some of us are new to national politics. Some of us are, seasoned people like Governor Kibwana. I really want to make sure that Kenyans understand that this discourse is about the country that we want to be. The reason why we're arguing to vote tomorrow is to help shape the character of your country. Are we going to be a country where the Constitution means anything? We are proud of our Constitution in this country, but it does not mean anything if it doesn't protect you from being picked up by the government in the middle of the street in broad daylight without any justification. It does not mean anything if it cannot protect you from being picked up for no reason, right? A constitution does not mean anything if it does not really serve citizens. And so we urge you to go out because I need you to connect having a constitution and actually defending it. It doesn't mean anything if you do not go out and protect it. The other thing I want to point out is that, all of us, outside of these spaces, we are doing other things to help advance the public good, right? Help the cause of the country. All these things are important, right? So I spend a lot of time, for example, researching and publishing my analysis about how your government is behaving or misbehaving with public funds. And I do that because I can connect the importance of resources in executing on the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't mean anything. It can tell you that you have rights to healthcare, to education, but if you don't have the resources to be able to execute on it, it doesn't mean anything. So look in yourself and ask you how you can serve your country. All of us have a role that we can play. Look in yourself and ask yourself, beyond tomorrow, what is it that you can do for your country? And then find that thing that you can do, and then start doing it, and then we'll all be helping develop and build a better country for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much. As we come to close, to the end of this powerful conversation, let us remember that the fight for justice, freedom, and democracy is not a sprint, as Dr. Milton said, it's always a marathon. The story we have heard tonight, the names of those missing, the voices of their families, remind us of the deep wound our nation bears. These are not isolated incidents, but symptoms of a system that has lost its moral compass. We, the people, are the soul of this nation. When we speak with authority of the Constitution and the collective will of a unified citizenry. The pain of the mothers waiting for her son, the emptiness of a child missing their father, and the silence of an empty chair at the family table should never be our reality. We must channel our outrage into action. We must demand accountability, not just with words, but with sustained pressure. This is our fight, our generational moment to rise and ensure that Kenya becomes a nation where human rights are sacred and not optional. Tonight we have shown we are not only tonight we have shown that we will not be silenced, we will not be intimidated, we will not rest until every abducted Kenyan is accounted for, until every perpetrator faces justice, until every family can heal from the horrors of enforced disappearance. Thank you all the speakers, your contribution, and listeners. Our power lies in our unity, our courage, and our unwavering commitment to truth and justice. I think together we will reclaim Kenya. Let's go forward, firm in purpose and unshaken in resolve. The fight continues. We will win. Let's follow each other and let's soldier on. Thank you. Over to you, Hillary.
Hillary will not be joining the mic. Something has happened and he cannot hear us. Unless you're back, Hillary.
Okay, so we can just close the space then.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you
thank you.
everyone for joining.
On behalf of Hillary, I just want to thank everyone who has joined the show. Too bad we can't give more mics, but we are here every Sunday. So join us next Sunday for this show. And depending on what will have happened in the coming weeks, we need everybody to come and let's talk. So on behalf of this show and everybody who has joined, and Hillary Gondi, our gracious host, we thank you. Let's see you next Sunday and have a great week. Today's Sunday, and have a Merry Christmas is over and Happy New Year. And Kenya will not have peace until our young people are at home. Asanteni sana.
Happy New Year, bye everybody. Thank you.
Kwa street kesho, mambo ya Happy New Year hiyo ni baadaye. Street kesho.
Okay, guys, Redemptor, you talking? Is Redemptor talking? Abdi, I can't hear you. Thank you so much. We're happy to see you, and keep it live all the time. This is a pressure point moment that we usually be here. Nonini, my brother, I see you there. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really appreciate everybody. We've been here for more than 4 hours. This one to keep us alive all the time. It was NDS edition, and that's why we decided to take this long today. And Degwa, thank you so much, Advocate, for joining, and the Prof was here, Dr. Miguna, and other speakers. So keep it alive, being the last Sunday of the year and the month of December.